If you'd please join me with the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Note for the record that all council members are present except Councilmember Conway, who will not be joining us this evening.
Thank you. So we have an agenda, and I would like to make one change to that and to close in memory of Marie Allen. Any other changes?
Well, Mary Howell, too, I think, so we should add her as well.
I'm sorry?
Mary Howell.
Mary Howell.
Mary Howell and Marie Allen, both very long-time residents of Brisbane.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Do I have a motion to?
So move.
Motion and a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the council met in closed session this evening to discuss the claim of a terror rye, and by unanimous vote, the council took action to deny that particular claim. We'll communicate that on to our claims administrator, who will inform the claimant of the council's decision.
Thank you. And that brings us to oral communications number 1. And I do not have a slip, but I do have, it looks like someone is here to speak without a slip.
I've spoken with Sherry. My name is Carolyn Kernberger, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about a serious issue. I've lived in Brisbane almost a year at the Joy Avenue condos and apartments. I moved here to be near my daughter and son-in-law and their newborn twins. They live in an upstairs apartment, and as it turns out, the two neighbors below both smoke cigarettes. Now, as you mostly know, one of the joys of living in Brisbane is that we can leave our windows open and enjoy the fresh air most of the time, but several times a day, and I spend a lot of time over at their place, even though I'm not living with them. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We can smell the cigarette smoke coming up through the windows and doors all the time. I mean, it's just, it's not continuous, but it's several times a day. I've taken several steps, and they've taken several steps to speak with the smokers. We contacted San Mateo County Health System, and even after receiving letters from the San Mateo County Health System, there have been no changes. The smokers just refuse to acknowledge that there could be any possible significant effect of their smoking, even for babies. So there's no change in their behavior. Again, this is a serious situation. Releasing known toxins into the air in this way isn't just inconsiderate and disrespectful, which is that, of course, but it's malicious behavior, and that poses a threat not only to my grandchildren, but others as well all over the city. And so I'm here tonight to urge you as quickly as you can, although I know things drag along, to address that issue by working to pass an ordinance against smoking in these multi-unit housing units. I know that the San Mateo County Health System Tobacco Prevention Division has provided you copies of the ordinance that's been passed by several other nearby cities, and so that, plus I know Councilmember Liu, you're an attorney, so right. That should help go through this process a little faster, we hope. And you have the copies which Sherry, the clerk, so graciously made copies of you all for, of an online petition that my daughter circulated. Both she and her husband are home with babies. Bedtime is a bad time for parents to get out. Anyway, we got 39 signatures on that, and you can see basically they're all Brisbane except for, I don't know what the New York one was, but my daughter put this up on the Brisbane Facebook page and the Brisbane Mob, Mothers of Brisbane site. And the one other one in Pennsylvania, I believe, is the grandfather of my grandchildren on the other side. Anyway, so thank you for your time and consideration. I know you have a complicated set of things to deal with, and your agenda is long tonight, so I appreciate your time and in any efforts that you can put towards this issue. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to let you know to respond that the Health and Safety Subcommittee, on which I sit along with Councilmember Miller, has been looking not at this particular issue, but at potential legislation dealing with e-cigarettes, and we were actually looking at whether or not to expand it to inside multi-unit housing. So I'm really glad to see you here tonight.
Right.
And
Thank you.
understand that it is a serious health issue. So
It is. It is.
thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is on our agenda. I want to just support what Laurie was saying, that we are aware of the problem and we're concerned about what we can do. It turns out that it's not so easy to handle. It's a legally complicated matter. And you were saying how lawyers facilitate things. Not necessarily, because they see all the pitfalls. Because what seems simple, doesn't turn out to be legally simple. So, but we'll try to do our best, because we certainly are aware of and very sensitive to the problem.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak on oral communications? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve item A, the City Council minutes of May 7th, item B, the Sierra Point Lighting and Landscaping District resolutions, and item C, the ordinance 595, amending the municipal code for wireless telecommunication facilities?
So moved, if no one has any
No,
objection.
no.
Okay,
Second.
a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And that brings us to old business item A, resolution 2015-20, approving the filing of an application for grant funds under the California Coastal Conservancy San Francisco Bay Conservancy Program and authorizing execution of documents on behalf of the city. Staff report, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This resolution is a required step in the grant process with the California Coastal Conservancy. As you know, the council approved a purchase agreement with the sellers of Lot 79 in Brisbane Acres, and the Coastal Conservancy staff has preliminarily indicated that they will recommend to their board approval of a grant. Originally, it was a 50% matching grant with an additional $20,000 amount for eucalyptus and other invasive removal. And in discussions with staff, they suggested that we take that $20,000 and instead add it to the acquisition grant, and this with the understanding the city would make up that $20,000 out of its budget, and that would greatly simplify the grant administration. Having to deal with contracts and hiring contractors through grant-funded monies requires that the contracts be reviewed by the Coastal Conservancy, and all kinds of administrative process back and forth to make sure that everything gets done properly. And so they would rather that we handle all that without them having to look over our shoulder. So that's why this grant was restructured from what it was originally intended to be. So it's a $60,000 grant, which is 75% of the purchase price. So it's $80,000. So we prepared a grant, and once this resolution is passed, we will forward that along to the Coastal Conservancy. We anticipate being on their October. They don't have a board meeting in July. They meet every couple of months, so they're skipping the summer. And so we'll be on their board agenda for October, which would mean we'd probably close sometime in January of 2016, assuming all goes well.
Thank you. Do we have any
Questions?
questions for staff?
I don't have questions, but I think it's great. So, just the
Yeah,
comment to make.
it's a no-brainer. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a smart move, having us be responsible for the cutting of the eucalyptus trees and
Right.
getting them out of the, managing that and providing the.
And we have contractors that
money.
we've worked with a number of other projects up in that area doing eucalyptus removal. So we have
Absolutely.
people that are that know the area and do good work up there. So
Is that Shelter Belt that would be the one providing for the, or other group?
Shelter Belt doesn't do large scale tree removals. They do mostly smaller invasives like broom and fennel and that sort of thing, and restoration work. So it's a tree cutting company called Mountain Enterprises Inc. And so they've done work for the county parks. They did the eucalyptus removal project in the saddle area of the county park, and they do a lot of work for PG&E and that sort of thing. So.
And when we talk about eucalyptus removal, are we not just talking about the big trees, but coming back and doing follow-up to make sure that we're not just sprouting a new forest?
Right. The stumps of the trees are treated, and we get all the trees in an area. We don't just take the big ones, but there's saplings in that, and so all of it gets taken out. And then generally what we do is use Shelter Belt to do the follow-up, to come back and treat small resprouts, and those can be removed by hand. They don't require heavy equipment.
Thank you.
No questions.
so I just wanted to point out, just for those few people who don't know, that Fred Smith, who's speaking here, is really responsible for our having acquired a very substantial portion of the critical habitat in the Brisbane Acres, and most of it through grant funding, which requires some expertise and persistence, which he has demonstrated over the years. So we've been very fortunate to have Fred's abilities to get us in that really great position in the Brisbane Acres, because years ago we knew that we had some really highly critical and very desirable open space that we wanted to acquire, and it wasn't really clear how we were going to do that, because it's in private ownership and it's expensive. And so the only way you can really do that effectively is to get a lot of grant support. And Fred has really been instrumental in making that happen. And so I've said this before, but I'll say it again. We're very appreciative of everything you've done.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Miller. I would just like to add my appreciation to the council for supporting the large amount of staff time it takes to make these transactions happen, and the generous financial support through the budget process for the city's share of the funds to make this happen. I don't know of any other city in the county that has dedicated the kind of resources to open space preservation within cities. So usually that's something done by a regional agency or a county, but those agencies are not willing to tackle something like the Brisbane Acres. So I appreciate the support of the council in this program too.
And it's also important to have the ongoing support for the habitat management. Besides the acquisition, it's very important to keep the management going, and I really
And that's
appreciate the effort.
one of the benefits of our obtaining title to these properties is it does enable us to then manage the vegetation and control invasive exotic plants that would cause the habitat to degrade. So,
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so I would move approval of Resolution 2015-20.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And that brings us to old business item B, which is to consider approval of the establishment of an ad hoc library planning stakeholder group and appoint one council member as primary and one council member as alternate to this working group. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council is asked tonight to establish the library planning stakeholder group and to appoint a council member and an alternate council member to the group. Just to go through the list for those who might be listening, the library stakeholder planning group will work with the city staff in working through the planning process, which includes working with the architect and engineer that we will be hiring. The planning group will actually participate in the selection of that group or the recommendations or selection of that group to the city council. And we anticipate them working with the architects through the planning process on a fairly close basis. So it's going to be an important group of folks to help guide this process and to help make recommendations to the council. So that said, the proposal is to have a member of the city council plus one alternate member, 2 members of the city staff, which would include myself and the public works director. San Mateo County Library staff, 2 members. The Presidents of the Brisbane Library is 2 members. The Brisbane Elementary School District would be 1 member. Mothers of Brisbane organization, 1 member, and Best PTO, 1 member. So we are asking tonight that the council confirm that membership or amend as you may deem appropriate. And if you choose to have a council member on it, which we recommend that you do, then that you choose that person.
Thank you. Discussion?
I think I mentioned before that I'd be happy to be that person, given that I'm on the library JPA governing board. I think that probably makes the most sense.
So why don't I move approval of the proposed membership of the library committee?
And we need to also appoint an alternate, or we can.
If the mayor wishes a motion.
Well, I wanted to ask if staff had thought about whether we needed a representative from the Parks and Recreation, or if that would be later down the road when it came to programming for the library, rather than what recreation needs would want to be met from the construction and the stakeholders group. Did you think of if we would?
You bring that up, and as I'm listening to you, it actually sounds like a good idea. The member of the Parks and Rec Commission might not be a bad person also to participate in this, because we certainly know that around this facility, or at least we anticipate around this facility, there will be some kind of passive park sort of setting. I wouldn't anticipate it be an active recreation area, but it would certainly have some aspect of that. And then we're also thinking about it in the context of some space inside the building for teens and for various sorts of programs for kids. So I think you've come up with a good suggestion.
Yeah, I would recommend doing that as well.
That sounds like a good idea to be.
That would also give us an odd number, so we wouldn't have any of those pesky tie votes on any programming issues. But I do think it's important to have, someone who's going to be more on the programming side, looking at what that may be brought in from the Park and Rec Department.
Good idea. There's certainly a connection between the facility design and the programs that are going to occur there.
True. And so that would be my recommendation, to add a person from Park and Rec. And I did get, I've talked to a few people from the community, and they are, concerned about what goes forward once we get into building a library. And I did want to reassure people in the public that it's not an either-or thing. I think it's going to be a very fluid group that is going to work with the existing library and how that can be repurposed into a multi-purpose and be reprogrammed for other events and current parks and recreation and teen services and different things that can go on. So with the change to add a Park and Rec
Right. No,
person.
that's a good idea. I think we all.
I think that
Sounds
I would
great.
like to see a motion with that included.
Yeah, well,
And then-
I will amend
and then
the motion to include that.
I know Clark's not here, but I'd like to nominate Clark as the alternate.
Alternate?
I believe he asked to be on that because he felt an affinity for it,
Oh, yeah.
besides also being on the facility subcommittee. I think that he
Right.
expressed that, and I would feel comfortable
You want to
nominating him
You want to put that all in the same motion? We
Yes.
can do that.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll do.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I guess I could have opened it up to public comment, but seeing no No immediate waving from the audience. So that brings us to new business. Item A, to consider selecting a council member to be spokesperson for the San Mateo County Energy Watch Challenge. Staff report, please.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, hopefully you received a letter from San Mateo County Energy Watch, which is a program under the City and County Association of Governments, about the Energy Watch Challenge. San Mateo County Energy Watch is promoting this challenge to encourage getting the word out to small businesses. They're providing free energy audits, followed up with kind of a guided process to hire a contractor and to get any possible rebates for energy upgrades. And they want cities to participate and help with communicating that information to businesses so that they sign up for this free audit and do energy upgrades, and obviously help with climate change issues. We've done a number of these projects with the city, as I'm sure you are familiar, because you guys authorized them in the budget. We've upgraded the lighting at City Hall and the HVAC at City Hall. We've done the lighting at the fire station. We've done some exterior lighting at Mission Blue. 6 or so projects, and it's been really streamlined and a great process through San Mateo County Energy Watch. They walk you through the whole thing, and it's pretty straightforward. So we are looking for a council member to be the elected official that is the challenge representative for Brisbane, if you are so inclined.
I think it should be the mayor.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I agree it should be the mayor, and I will, if so chosen, will do my best to reach out to the community.
And the staff is going to help you with that. There's going to be a letter that you can, edit if you'd like, and then we are going to do outreach with the Chamber of Commerce and send that out to businesses and do as much outreach as we possibly can.
Well, this is a very short time frame, so it is a short commitment, because the challenge is going through June. We did have a presentation from CCAG at our last meeting, which I attended, and it was very interesting. One of the questions there was whether the Samtrans building in San Carlos had been audited, and they said it was, but it had too many issues to be able to pass an audit. Okay. And so when you say that we have done some of those energy upgrades, have we done the actual audit here?
Yes. Yeah, you do. The audit is the first step, and the remodel of City Hall considered a lot of energy upgrades when it happened in 2008, but there are actually a few more things that we could do that just happened in the past year or so.
Would it behoove us to, as the point person, would it behoove us to have another audit done at this point to see what changes have made? Is that something that businesses that have had previous audits may still benefit by the new technologies?
Yeah, I think you want to re-audit every few years. That's what the CCAG representatives suggest. Now, the City Hall upgrades we just did in the past 12 months, so I might wait a couple more years for this building. You funded all of the ones that we did with this last round in this last fiscal year, so probably in about 2 more years and they're also good about coming around and setting up a meeting and saying, hey, what facilities do you want us to audit? We'd like to take a look, and they're proactive too, so we will stay on top of it.
Any other comments from?
I just wanted to say, echo what Karen was talking about, how proactive the San Mateo County Energy Watch is, and they've been working with the school districts as well, and that was one of the things that they were working on a few years ago, and our own school district is participating in that audit opportunity and trying to make our schools more energy efficient. So, yeah, it's a great organization.
Good. Sounds good.
Yeah, so.
I would suggest, you'll probably go to the Chamber of Commerce,
Right, that's
maybe
what
to one of their
it
board
is.
meetings
Right.
and
Right.
present it there, and then the members there can bring it back to their companies, and
Right.
I'm sure Mitch Ball will
I think
help you
it's a great
connect
thing
with all
for
the
Mitch
other
to
businesses.
take on.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's my motion to appoint Mayor O'Connell as our spokesperson for
Okay.
the program.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And I look forward to the challenge. So that moves us to item B, consider adoption of Resolution 2015-21, authorize the agreement with Turbo Data Systems, Inc. for parking citation processing services for a 5-year term. Staff report, please.
Sure. This goes back to 1999 when the cities and the county got together to issue a joint proposal for parking citation processing. At that time, Turbo Data won the proposal. We have done this a couple of times since then, and each time Turbo Data is the least expensive one. The county put it out for proposal again. Turbo Data is again the least expensive of the citation processing firms. And ultimately, with the reduction in cost in this current process, we should save about $350 a year by signing this agreement. If we don't sign this agreement, we would be responsible for processing the citations ourselves, which would mean if there were any complaints, we would have to have a complaint officer. We would have to send letters to the people who were not paying us. We would collect the money ourselves. We would also have to put notice on their DMV registration and their vehicle when they do their license plate registration. So all that would be responsibility of staff if we were not to re-sign with Turbo Data. When we do this with the entire county, because as you can tell by the number of citations we issue, we just don't do very many. So we try and join with other cities so we have a larger volume, so we get the volume discount by doing it this way.
Any questions for staff?
I do not.
Just a couple of So, are all the cities involved? I mean, is every city's participating, as far as
Yes.
you know?
I believe every city does.
Okay,
They all have the opportunity, but I believe they all do.
okay,
I don't think anybody does this on their own.
right. So why was the just historically of interest, the shift from Daly City to the county?
The Daly City's finance
county?
director retired. So it used to be the finance director for Daly City was the one who used to do the
Right.
proposals. He retired.
Uh-huh.
So the county stepped up and offered to do put out the proposal.
Okay. So it was just one of those change of personnel situations.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And
We tried to convince Don McVeigh to do it anyway, even though he was retired, and he said thank you, but no.
okay. So I assume that the police department is happy with the service of this company? Yes. Okay, all right.
So do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Turbo Data Systems, Inc. for city parking citation processing, education services for a 5-year term expiring June 30th, 2020.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And that brings us to item C, consider approval of an amendment to the contract with the city manager's employment agreement. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. You have before you, based on Council's direction, staff is providing the amendment to the employment agreement with Clay Holstein, the city manager, and asking the City Council to consider authorizing the mayor to sign and to provide a salary adjustment for the city manager. City Manager Clay Holstein has been employed with the City of Brisbane since 1998. The most recent employment agreement with the city was entered into on May 19, 2014. In the closed session on May 7, 2015, Council met with the City Manager for an annual review and gave him a satisfactory performance rating. The performance amendment to the city manager's employment agreement, and in recognition of the satisfactory performance, is to provide a 2.6% cost of living adjustment effective with the first full pay period in July 2015. This recommendation is in line with other employee units' cost of living adjustments that are scheduled for the same period. This will provide Mr. Holstein with a new base salary of $18,385.46 monthly. The funds for the city manager's salary are currently budgeted in the annual city budget.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? No comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Must be Clark.
You're not allowed to say anything.
I didn't say it. I just.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
Staff reports, city manager's report on upcoming activities, and I believe we have an update on drought and Brisbane water system responses to that drought.
I'm wondering, Madam Mayor, if we could push that off until the end of the evening. Randy Bro is our Director of Public Works, who will be joining us shortly, I believe. He's at a BAUSCA meeting tonight. So as soon as that's over, and he's the chair of BAUSCA, so as soon as that's over, he will be here. So if we could do the rest of it, the rest of the agenda, and if for some reason he's not here, I'll try to pinch hit as best I can. And
Okay.
Eric's here also.
That's fair enough. So we will postpone the update on the drought and water system responses. Does the city manager have any other reports to give?
No other reports tonight.
Thank you. So that brings us to the countywide subcommittee assignment and reports, which for once we actually have some time for people to.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I had a lost of thought there for a second. I was going to have Maria do an oral update on what's going on with the shuttle program.
Okay.
I know we've got some issues that the public's going to be dealing with for a few weeks, so I thought it'd be good to do an oral update.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regard to our commuter shuttle that is servicing Brisbane, on May 6th, we were notified by commute.org, the organization that oversees the commuter shuttle program, that one of the 3 shuttles would not be operating that afternoon. Staff notified the public by posting information online and on our Facebook page. We still had 2 shuttles operating that day, so service was not completely disruptive. It was actually the same day as the BART disruption, so I think what we had going on was very minimal compared to what commuters were experiencing with BART, and service was restored the next day. On May 13th, we were again notified by commute.org that one of the 3 shuttles would not be in service, both in the morning and afternoon, and unfortunately, that is still, that service disruption is still in existence. They are currently having staffing issues at this time. I spoke with staff at commute.org this week. For those of you that are not familiar with commute.org, they are the organization that oversees the commuter shuttle programs through San Mateo County, and they are continuing to be in talks with the current shuttle service provider to resolve the situation and work to get the service levels back up. I've been in talks with them. They did note that complaints have been down. If people are attempting to find out more information, they're more than welcome to contact commute.org directly at 650-588-1600. They can also email their concerns to shuttles@commute.org. One of the other things that commute.org is currently working on, which is probably related, is that they're transitioning to a new shuttle service provider, MV Transportation. They will be taking over the shuttle service as of July 1st. So once that transition goes on, we hope that service will be back up to our full 3 shuttles. The schedules will remain the same, so there should be no loss of that type of service. MV Transportation, we're looking forward to, will provide new shuttles, so there'll be a whole new branding of the shuttles that people will notice. They will also have eventually a GPS program that commuters will be able to use on their phone so they can check to see when their shuttle is arriving. So we do expect the service level to be much better once we have the full transition. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions from staff?
Well, I have a question. You're on the board, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question, and then between somebody here, we ought to be able to get an answer. The thought that crossed my mind when I saw this problem, and it's a serious problem because we want people to take public transit, and then public transit gets screwed up, and so then people get discouraged, and so obviously it's defeating our objective. And so one of the thoughts that crossed my mind was, if this company is not really able to fulfill its contract, isn't there a provision in the contract that would say, okay, you're not doing what you agreed to do, you're gone, and we're going to bring in this other company that's going to take over in July. Why not take over June 1st so we can get things up to speed? I mean, that was just the thought that I had. And of course, there are all sorts of legal factors and other kinds of logistical things. But anyway, I was just wondering if that's a feasible thought, or has it been thought about and not feasible, or what?
It absolutely has been thought about. Currently, for each time the current provider, PCA, or Parking Company of America, misses running a trip, they are fined $100 for each trip. Currently, they're being fined up to $600 a day. Again, as I mentioned, Commute.org has been in talks with them, and they are taking a look at having them, I believe the term is officially surrender the route so that we can transition over to the incoming provider. However, there are several other legal issues that are going on right now, so Commute.org has been in talks with their attorneys, and we are trying to see if that's a direction we can move in.
Got anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, Maria, said it very, very well. You have a company that has been the provider for a long time. They didn't win the contract, and so they have some sour grapes, and trying to use whatever means possible to continue to be the provider. And they have not acted very professionally. So it's just, we have this rough patch that we'll get through. There's something else that I wanted to comment on, was that our current route currently does not go through the Ridge neighborhood. And so Maria and I talked about it. I reached out to John Ford, he's the executive director, and they had some staff go out a couple days ago and look at a potential addition to the route, and that would not add very much time to the overall time that it takes to do the complete circulation. And so instead of let's see, what's that road, Maria, that
You were taking a look at the moving up on Monarch Mission Blue,
to Mission Blue. Instead of just going straight up,
instead of going straight up North Hill,
making the left at Monarch, and then a right on Mission Blue. And then as you're heading towards Bayshore, there's a couple of bulb outs. So the shuttle bus could easily pull over and pick up passengers or drop off passengers. So did John give you any feedback, Maria, on that?
He has sent me a little bit of feedback. I think they were going to provide me a lot more detail in regard to it. So once I have that available, then I can forward it to you.
All right. And just to let you know, I mean, if he comes back kind of saying, I don't know if we can do that, Cliff, I'll say, you know what, I think you could do it, John, because it's not that much of a deviation. But it would make a big difference for folks living at the Ridge, being able to hop on that shuttle bus instead of walking a considerable distance to get to one of the shuttle stops.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're looking at that. The other question I had was, what about later drop-offs in the evening? I have received correspondence from a resident in town who had suggested that there be an added route for people who are going to be working late, maybe having dinner in the city or just having later work hours, because right now it's pretty early. I mean, I remember I used to take it, and you had to leave the city by maybe 5 p.m. in order to to catch the shuttle at Balboa Park Station. So has there been any discussion about adding a later
Yeah, there has.
route?
So I'm on the strategic subcommittee for the 5-year and 10-year plan, and that is something that we are talking about, extending the hours and having off hours, to make it more convenient for people to use the shuttle. So, yeah, hopefully that is something that will come to the full board. I guess it's in July is the next meeting, Maria?
We actually have a meeting next month.
Next month.
Right.
Or in June, excuse me. So, yeah, I'm thinking it's June right now. So, yeah, in June. Okay. So, but we have a subcommittee meeting coming up prior to that commute.org meeting to address that particular issue.
Okay, good.
And Maria, you said that the current shuttle provider who is not running the routes could be fined up to $600 a day. Is that
actually, they are being fined.
And does that fund come back to the city of Brisbane, where we could use that for allowing for alternative transportation vouchers?
No, it actually goes back to commute.org because, just as a reminder, we are one of one of the members of the consortium throughout Crocker Park that pays for it. So it actually is a shared cost, not just the city of Brisbane's cost for the shuttle. But those funds would go back to commute.org for to provide services if necessary.
And are other routes in the area being affected similarly, or are we being singled out for the staffing issues?
There are other routes that are being affected. We actually did this shuttle service contract as a joint RFP with Samtrans. They are also having some of their commute and commuter and community shuttles affected. So I know it's not just us alone that's having it. The sense is that since this is going to be a transition to the new provider, that the staff is basically looking out for their own welfare, finding other jobs. So that's really the reason why we're losing drivers on.
Well, I understand the issues of being able to hire staff on a part-time basis for something when their job's going to be ending in a month, and staff leaving because something's going, their job's going to be going away. So I understand the issues, but is it something we could ask? Is there some way we can help alleviate this for our commuters by offering some other transportation for those missed shuttles, or voucher system for other kind of ride sharing? Is there some short-term gap we could do?
I could look into it. I am aware that they have had some issues with one of their programs, which is the Emergency Ride Home program. We don't currently participate in that, but there are other companies that do. Basically, the Emergency Ride Home program provides a taxi voucher to employees who are stuck at home. Maybe their car broke down, or maybe they had to stay at work late. But unfortunately, there's some companies that actually use that as their regular transportation, so it's being abused right now in that sense. So they're taking a look at revamping that program. So I know that that's kind of impacting our ability to provide something
as a stopgap. Thank you.
As a person who rides the shuttle when I come to Brisbane on Wednesday, should point out that while certain times are missing, it's sort of like in between. So, for example, before there was, a 4:30 pickup and then a 4:50 pickup. Now the 4:30 pickup has gone away, but the 4:50 is still there. So it's not like the entire afternoon or morning routes are completely gone. It's just that there's a larger gap right now between when the shuttle comes. So, if somebody gets off work at 4:30 or 4:25, it's a little more inconvenient to have to wait 15 or 20 minutes, but at least it's not wholesale gone at the moment.
And is there also, as someone who rides the shuttle, are the shuttles noticing that we have a limited capacity due to a system error, so that the public who's riding the shuttle, who's getting on the shuttle and maybe had to wait a little longer, knows that it's going to be better?
At least with the individuals that I both ride in and ride out with, they seem to, I don't know if they know the reason behind it, but they do understand that it's not running as frequently as before and have adjusted their schedules accordingly. And quite honestly, the shuttles are, they're pretty full, at least, at the, 7:45 and the 4:30, 5 o'clock time frame that I ride it. They're full. The vans aren't in the best of shape, I would say, but they are full of passengers.
Well, I don't know if we could request this, but maybe if there could be signage in the van itself that thanks the riders and acknowledges that they are perhaps a little more full and it's a temporary situation. I don't know if we could ask the outgoing company to do that, but
We can always ask.
thank you. Any other council or city manager reports?
I don't believe I forgot anything else unless, okay, nobody's trying to get my attention.
Okay. So that brings us to our countywide assignment and subcommittee reports. And Lori, would you like to start?
So the library JPA board met about a week ago, and we received the recommended budget for fiscal year 2015-16. We reviewed it, and we'll be meeting again next month to approve it, and then it'll go on from there to the Board of Supervisors. Economic Development Subcommittee also met last week. We talked about the scope of work for a precise plan for the area that was talked about under the housing element. And that'll be discussed more in the budget process. And then also I'm on the skate park subcommittee, the funding subcommittee, with the mob. And we met earlier this week and talked about some fundraising activities. We've been making a lot of progress. We're in the process of, or the mob, I should say, is in the process of putting together some commit to a brick forms, which are going to be used to collect donations. Yeah, Jennifer Bousquet came up with that term. She's got a lot of great experience with that realm. And so we're going to be sending out these forms. They're going to go out with the school in the parent folders. They're going to be distributed through Best PTO. And then we'll also be putting collection jars around town, and we'll be using them at the concerts in the park and hopefully at the citywide garage sale. So we're making some progress on the donations. And community choice aggregate, I'm on the advisory board for that, and we'll be meeting on the 28th, but I did view a webinar today that just gave some introductory material about the program, which probably most of us all know about. But what's interesting is that the county is moving away from the CCA, and now they're calling it the CCE, Community Choice Energy, because they feel that that's more descriptive. So that's it.
Thank you. Ray?
I don't have anything countywide, but good report just on the budget committee, if you want. Yeah. So the budget committee met, and we were looking at the draft of the overview budget presentation that Doris put together, and had a conversation, made some suggestions, and so we still have some more work to do to get ready for June 8th when the whole budget process starts, but we are doing our due diligence.
Cliff?
Yeah, so I was with Lori at the economic subcommittee meeting, economic development subcommittee meeting. Pretty much said it all, Lori. I do have a couple of, well, one thing was the airport SFO roundtable had their workshops on departures and arrivals. I went to both. So coming out of the departure workshop, we had some members of the community there via conference call. And so that was nice having folks like Peter Grace being able to chime in with suggestions. So coming out of that workshop meeting, we're looking at creating a simulation of what it would look like if planes flew out of SFO and out of Oakland using the new RNAV procedures. Is there enough space between the two? Are those two flight paths compatible with each other? One of the things that we acknowledge that the new stick procedure is a fly over and not a fly by. So originally we thought it was the fly over, and we had said it was a fly over or a fly through. And then at the last roundtable meeting, Bert Ganang from the abatement office said, no, it's a flyby. And it's like, okay, no, I don't think it's a flyby. And
so does that mean you just go close to it? You don't have to go to it?
That is correct. So we confirmed that it's a fly over. So that means that the planes are obligated to fly over the waypoint. Now, that doesn't mean that an air traffic controller can't vector the plane sooner. And when we get the noise coming over Brisbane, typically that's because the flight has been vectored by an air traffic controller. So one of the things that we're going to do is gather the data and see what is the percentage of planes that are flying through or flying over the waypoint, so we can start to track that and see if we can't work with the FAA to do a better job in following through on the flight procedure that they have spent millions of dollars on to create. And then I was going to ask Clay about the Measure A funds. Do you have an update on what the status is of that for our library?
Very, very quiet.
Okay. All right. That's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And I did attend a CCAG meeting. We were approached by Supervisor Pine with a presentation about reinventing or reactivating the current flood control program, and to address both flood control in the existing district, that includes an area of South City, Colma, and Redwood City, and make it more receptive to sea level change and the flood control portion, where when we have large storm events, we really aren't ready for them, and we can't, the infrastructure doesn't cope. And the county is offering to put in between $1 and $3 million per year to re-energize that program. It got a little bite back from the CCAG because they felt that it was making a new program instead of re-energizing a program that's already there and taking control out of the CCAG hands and putting it into the flood district's plans. One of the big things that made it important, or a topic that was timely, is that the new FEMA maps have come out or are coming out, and each city had to negotiate whether they were going to be included in the FEMA flood maps, which would cause, many thousands of dollars insurance premium rate increases. I don't think that we are affected by those flood maps particularly, but I would like to find out, because this was something that I hadn't been made aware of. It would be nice to know that we aren't on those flood maps and those aren't issues that are going to come to us. So I don't know if staff has any response to that. Okay. So it was very interesting to see, and more so than the actual topic, which was very important. You know, they talked about different communities, that everything ran downhill. So when someone can't control their stormwater, it floods the person downstream. And so what might be Portola Valley's problem, it's coming from Woodside and it's ending up in Redwood City. So it's all interconnected. So it is a matter of working together, but I think that Supervisor Pine and the county willing to take a lead on it was a good thing, but it's going to be discussed more at CCAG because some people took offense that they were, or felt they were being left out of the loop, when I don't think that was the real reason for coming to CCAG. I think it was more informational, and it might have gotten taken a little bit wrong. And
So was this in conjunction with, I'd been to a couple meetings in the past where Supervisor Pine was leading about the sea level rise task force, looking at creating a vulnerability assessment task force. Is that part of that?
I think it is related, but not part of it, because there's already an existing, I'm going to call it a JPA, but I think it's a district that is a flood control district. And so it already has the task of doing flood control in these 3 areas that are known problems. And their funds can only be used for those areas. So I think the county wants to broaden it and make it something that can work across city and county and district lines to be a county-wide issue and bring the sea level rise into the flood control district so that it can be more seamless. But it still would require the city's buy-in if, say, South City wanted to work on a project. You'd need buy-in from South City, not just from the county JPA. And the county flood district wouldn't come in and say, oh, we're doing this project in your jurisdiction. And so I think that was some of the issues that were coming up in that meeting that, I didn't really see coming, but it was interesting to see how that played out to a certain degree and how every city takes it very seriously when it affects them. And then we also discussed the rates for the city CCAG dues, and those, I think, were also reviewed by our city and were consistent and in line. Dues themselves did not go up as a whole. They became different, apportioned to different cities in different ways due to the population changes. So, it was a percentage or two, a 0.1%, population shift, and so different allocations on the dues, but not anything that is too bad for anybody's budget. So it was all seemed in line. And then I also was on the budget subcommittee report, and we got our book today, so we have some homework to do, and can look at real numbers, which I think are going to be very important to do over the next budget cycle in the next couple weeks that will affect what we are able to do over the next year. So that's it for me. And then on written, any other subcommittee reports? So on written communications, we, I think those all have to do with the other items. So I don't have anything on the written communications. And then discussion of the Planning Commission interviews. And I think that our city clerk, we had decided at our last meeting, and the city clerk announced we were going to do the May 27th. And now we have a conflict, and the question is, do we want to try to schedule another date when we can all be there? Or we could, there's also an option of holding the interviews and then voting either with the, Cliff can't be at that meeting, or we could vote on the phone, or you could attend via phone, if that's possible, or we can try to set a different date.
Yeah, I would prefer a different date because now I have my potential conflict on the 27th. I mean, not a conflict, but I would have to hire a babysitter in order to come to the meeting because no one would be at home to watch my children. So, so I'd prefer if we could choose a different date. That would be my preference.
So, is it you're out of town for a block of time around that, or
So yeah,
I mean, I shouldn't
I'm gonna
put it that
be,
way, but
no. So yeah, on Wednesday I'm leaving for Arizona. Caitlin has orientation at ASU, so I'll be gone for the rest of the week. Be back on Sunday. I can look at my calendar, but then of course we don't have Clark's.
Yeah,
calendar
that's what I was going to ask about too. Did Clark give any parameters or not? I'm looking at the city manager. Did he talk to you at all about this?
Not about this, no. Just as general parameters that you've heard over the years about not doing something on Monday night.
He's not keen on Monday nights, right?
and I'm not keen on Tuesdays.
Right. Yeah. So we all remember that.
And it sounds like we have 8 applicants, and so we do have a pretty
We need a full
we need
evening for it,
a pretty full evening.
or a weekend or something. We need enough time.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fine with the conference call. I mean, I can do that. I mean, I'll just say how I feel about it. I mean, typically when we have a commissioner or a committee member that wants to reapply, we usually bring them, we usually allow them to continue working. I know in the past we had our discussion in regards to expanding the planning commission to 7 members. I'd be open for that. So I think I've already expressed, where I stand on if we're going to keep the planning commission at 5 people. I'm going to go with the person that has already done the job and to me has proven themselves. Not to say that the other applicants wouldn't do a great job. I think that they would, but again, she has proven herself in my eyes, and so I would go with that. If you guys are open to expanding it, then I would continue to evaluate all the other applicants.
So if we're not expanding it, you really don't need to be at the interviews, but you would want to be there for the vote. Is that the short of it?
That is, yes.
Okay.
And when is the date when you get back, when you're first available again after your trip?
So I'm back on Sunday.
So I don't know what staff's availability or the applicant's availability are. I'm available June 1st, June 3rd, God forbid June 5th. Hate to schedule anything for a Friday, but I don't know if there's any other conflicts with those dates or if we want to.
The Chamber of Commerce has their awards dinner on Monday the 1st. And usually they like to have some council members there. So I would say the 3rd.
Wednesday the 3rd. Would there be a conflict with
Not that I can see
staff?
if we're using the conference room. We may have a meeting in here, but we can use the conference room. And Clark, that shouldn't be a problem with Clark. I'll check with him.
Would Wednesday the
That's a
3rd
Wednesday.
work for you?
Yep.
So if we can,
And I'll
and
contact the
if we can put that out for the 3rd at, is it okay to start at 7 or do we need 7:30 on a Wednesday?
7 p.m. is fine.
7, okay?
So, I have a roundtable meeting that night. So, again, if it depends on what you guys want to do. If it's just going to be, if I was willing to go without being at the meeting on the 27th, if you're going to schedule another one, then we should all be there.
Okay.
What time's the roundtable?
It's at 7.
Same time.
It is at the same time.
Okay. Well, we have a conflict on the 1st, and so,
Okay, you know
I
what?
mean, do you want to
think-
leave it at the 27th?
No, after the last meeting, I realized my parents are going to be coming in that night, and I need to be at the house to meet them. So
Okay.
I'm not going to be available on the 27th.
Okay.
You know what? I'm fine with the 3rd and not being there. I think I've already made my intentions clear. I would like, if it's possible, if we can decide, yes, we would entertain perhaps going 7. You don't have to say yes, we would do it, but just, is that something that is a possibility for all of you?
Well,
I think we have to be careful about what we say because making decisions on that matter are not really on the agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's defer to the city attorney. What can we and should we or should we not say, just to give a sense of where we're heading?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, if there was, you're setting the your purpose of this discussion was to try to set a date
for interviews.
If there is desire to amend the ordinance to increase the planning commission from 5 to 7, I think you can, give that direction to staff to bring that back. Obviously, that'll take a little bit of time to, before it would go into effect. But, that would be, if there's consensus to do that, we can certainly do that. And how that bears then on your interview process, we'll leave it up to you to figure out. But, if there's an interest in going from 5 to 7, I think you can give that direction under this item without deciding whether you're going to do that.
Right,
just provide
right.
Direction.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I was in favor of that from the get-go.
I
if you
know.
remember.
Have we ever had
And
a
the
planning
resistance
commission
was
of 7?
from a couple of the planning commissioners and
Actually, the one who said that she would not be on the planning commission if we made it 7.
I've heard from at least 2 planning commissioners that they want to keep it at 5.
Yes, I have to.
that's their preference, but
So
But it's our choice.
it's our choice.
But it's,
yeah.
again, it's
Putting it out
something
there.
that is really for,
Is, what would be the consequences? That's the real question.
so, dates. Back to dates.
Okay, so if we chose the 3rd, no decision would be made. You're just interviewing.
We would interview, we could hold the vote on that at the following council meeting, which would be the 4th.
I won't be here on the 4th.
Okay? Well, we could still have the vote on the 4th.
Yeah. Or we're meeting again on the 8th and the 9th, so
We could throw it in
add
on the
on
budget
agenda for one of
agenda for
our
something before
budget
that.
workshops, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So let's do it on the 3rd. I'm fine with that.
Okay?
Now, but let me ask a question, just a legal question. So would you be coming on the 3rd? I mean, would you be there? I mean, the
No.
question.
After the roundtable meeting, I
Or-
could be there. After
No,
that.
I'm wondering, does a person need to participate in the interviews in order to vote? I guess that's my question.
No, you've read the agendas, you've read their applications.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, want to make sure we're clear on this. Yeah.
The answer is no, that there isn't any legal or statutory obligation that a council member has to be a part of the interview process in order to appoint or to vote on an appointment to
Okay.
a commission. As long as that council member feels he or she has reviewed the application and feels informed enough to make it, or has enough information to make an informed decision, that's all that's required.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, because an interview is not prerequisite for appointing a
Okay.
commissioner.
I just want to make sure, so we don't get a,
So we're doing that at 7 p.m. on 3rd. On
June
the 3rd.
3rd. And then
Okay.
we'll have the vote during the budget hearing on the
8th or the
8th
9th,
or
or ninth,
whichever
whatever
works,
makes
Okay.
the most sense.
that
works
sounds-
better.
I mean, my guess would be the 8th.
Okay.
And let me just throw this out there as well. So the roundtable meeting will end at 9. I don't anticipate it lasting longer than that. So I could come to the interview after the roundtable meeting. I will have already read all the applications. I might be able to take in some of the interviews and potentially make a decision with all of you
Okay.
on the 3rd.
So you're suggesting that we,
We should start a little
We-
later then.
We're going to vote on it. I mean, it's certainly not improper to be there for some of the interviews, but I think what we would do is we would then schedule the actual
Vote on the
appointment
8th.
for the 8th or the 9th. or
Right.
whatever.
Okay,
but,
all right.
but you'd like to be there for the discussion, you're saying, if we,
Yeah, no, if I can. So
If you make it, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
I would
Where's
rather
your
not
meeting?
try to hold up,
over.
transportation time and,
Well, if we have 8 people to interview and we do 15-minute interviews, it's going to take us 2 hours just to get
2
through
hours.
them. So, yeah, I think
Well, if we started at 7:30, which is the normal time.
that's fine. We start at 7:30, then you can plan to
then
join us at
we're not
9:30.
through the interviews until 9:30.
okay, I'm going to put it in my calendar once we've decided.
7:30 on the 3rd.
Let's do 7:30, and then that'll allow Cliff to be able to join us for the
Okay,
discussion.
How's that sound?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll have the actual, we can deliberate and talk on the 3rd, but the actual formal appointment would be on the 8th? Okay?
And the deliberations are public, correct?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have to be.
Okay. So then also need to set
Before
the,
we go on, I think the Complete Streets meets, don't they meet on the 3rd?
We do meet on the 3rd. We meet in the large conference room.
and we do have applicants that are on the complete streets that have applied for the,
Well,
We meet
that'll
at
be convenient.
6:30 and we typically end at 8:15.
okay, so we'll just make sure that
Put that person at the end then, yeah. But then there's the question of who meets where. You have to resolve that.
My guess will be complete streets here somewhere.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
okay, thank you. So to set the date for the city attorney evaluation.
I was suggesting that we're going to have the sustainability framework workshop on the 15th. And I was suggesting that would, if that'll work for the council, that would work for Teresa and I. And I did discuss it with her, and we are not going to be billing the council for our evaluation
Thank you.
time.
Right.
She can make it on the 15th, and certainly I will be here as well. So if that would work, I think everyone will be here on the 15th, and we could do it at 7 o'clock that day, if that would work for the council.
7 o'clock
7,
on
that would
Monday.
only leave us half an hour before the
I think we would
move the,
move the other one back to start at 8, if that would be a good.
that would make sense. Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
that's fine with me.
Okay? All right.
That's the 15th.
and you'll send out a little reminder on that for the different start date, Sherry? You'll send out a reminder on that for the start date, to add that to the calendar, please, on both those events. And then we have the City Selection Committee, May 29th, vacancies for ABAG. And this really, this is dated May 29th, 2015, but then it says that they called for a meeting tomorrow, May 22nd. Do you know if what is correct on this? Or am I reading it wrong? Because if this is true, then that means if we're going to vote on this, one of us.
The date of the memo is wrong. It's that I just got this memo today by email at 3 o'clock, so the memo can't possibly be dated May 29th.
Okay, so.
But it looks like
the meeting is tomorrow.
Right.
That's weird because everything up to this time has said the 29th, so.
So is
that
May.
could be a typo as well?
Is June 22nd a Friday?
Wait, this is Council of Cities.
It's
meeting.
a selection committee, yeah. Well, it's with.
City Selection Committee.
Yeah, so it's going to be Friday,
The 29th,
the
right?
29th, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, this is a
So
typo.
something got screwed up.
Yeah, I guess why they're saying.
The
I
dates
guess,
got transposed, maybe?
yeah, but it'll be discussed on the 29th.
Right.
I will not be there. Are you going to be there, Terry?
Well, right at this point, it appears that it is not a contested election on either seat. Correct?
I would believe so, yeah, at this time.
It's 2 council members and 2 council members. And it's not contested. So
Yeah, I haven't.
it worries me that everything is misdated. I mean, it confuses me that
We've got
it's
a couple
misdated.
letters.
Yeah, we got a couple letters, but it's all from people who are in the positions now who want to be reappointed.
Right.
Yeah, so there doesn't seem to be any
Conflict.
contest. Yeah. Right?
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
But if it needs be, I will go to the meeting, hopefully not tomorrow night.
Yeah, no, I think it's the 29th.
Yeah, I think it is the 29th. It looks like there are 2 typos in this memo. She emailed it out at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I just printed it out for you tonight.
Right.
So,
Okay. But if need be, I will go to the meeting. If need not be, then I probably won't.
Well, the only reason for going
Is a quorum.
It's a quorum, exactly.
Yeah, we had an issue with that on a ABAG meeting that we did
Because, if you don't have a quorum, then you can't do anything.
right. Okay, well, if need be, I will find out and make sure that they've got a quorum. If not, I will attend.
This letter here does state it's on the 29th.
Right.
And that's
Everything else has said the 29th.
That's from,
Right.
And
So
I think all the people who are running are pretty good, so, at least in my view. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but they all seem pretty good, so.
yeah.
It would be nice to support them, I would, if it's possible.
yes.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, Catherine Carlton from Menlo Park she is the alternate. And then on this email, it says that David Canepa is the alternate. So,
Yeah,
who's ever the alternate, I
Well,
don't know.
Canepa is in the job now, according to previous emails. And the only thing that I can figure here is he's not running again.
Right.
That's my assessment from this, and that this other council member is running instead. That's how I read it.
Right. These aren't in the email. Those aren't the people running.
That was
Those
the
are
currently held, and the other one is uncontested.
Right.
Is seeking appointment.
Oh, you're right, there it is. That's
So,
you're right.
he's-
Got it.
Right.
Probably stepping down from that.
Yeah.
So that brings us to your drought report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go ahead and try to fill in as best I can. Council certainly can answer any questions, and if you ask enough questions, maybe Randy will be here in time to be able to respond to those.
Or we could postpone this until Randy can join us.
We could do that. It's your choice. I will let you know that we are, matter of fact, staff just met today to discuss how we're going to try to get the word out in terms of information to the community. 'Cause the basic issue for residents is that there's going to be 2-day-a-week watering for outside landscaping. There'll be an odd even system, and we'll get information out about that. We use the signboard. We'll obviously use our social media. We even talked about potentially having a booth over at the weekly farmers market during the summertime to provide information to people. We do have an active enforcement program that is gearing up, particularly to deal with the commercial landscaping properties. I will note, and I think it's kind of interesting to note, that we've actually had about a 20% reduction in outdoor landscaping usage year over year. So we are getting good response from our commercial properties, and I can certainly have Randy come here on the 4th and kind of provide a more thorough update for you. And this is obviously something that I think we're going to be communicating throughout the summer to people. A lot of it's going to be people starting to understand and to hear it repeatedly. I remarkably saw somebody actually washing their car out in the street the other day, and soap suds were walking. Water was going into the street, and soap suds were going into the storm drain system. And it was like, oh my. So obviously we have an education thing to do with some folks. Some people kind of get it, and other people are probably a little bit slower to get it. I also would like to encourage people who might be listening that if they see water being used in a way that they don't think is appropriate, and that would be water running down the street or into the sidewalk, or sprinkler heads that are not working and are spraying water, please call the Public Works Department and do it in real time so that we can get out there. We really kind of have to see it as it happens to be able to do enforcement. So telling us a week later, or sending in a picture 3 or 4 days later is nice, but it really makes it pretty impossible to enforce against. So real-time information is what we would like to see.
Thank you. And I would like to say that if you see your neighbor or someone doing something what you feel is inappropriate, be nice. It's always easier to correct someone with a pleasant word than an angry word. So I would recommend civility when it comes to that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that will be the nature of the enforcement program. I mean, it's more about trying to get people's compliance and educate folks as to what they can do, as opposed to immediately just fining people.
Thank you.
But usually the biggest problem is misdirected sprinklers and so forth, and then normally aren't any people around. It's just a impersonal sprinkler that's going crazy.
Right.
So that's why the enforcement, particularly in Crocker Park, is important. I have one question and one comment. The question has to do with, and here it talks about the irrigation that's going to be really monitored for keeping to the restrictions, is something irrigating ornamental landscape or turf. Could someone give me a definition of ornamental landscape or turf?
Not a playground? Not a playground is what I read that as. If it's a field that's an active use, it's not an ornamental turf. It's just for beauty. It's not useful. So that was my interpretation, and I'm sure Randy can give us the official.
Probably a pretty good one. But
Karen, do you have a sense of what that means? Just out of curiosity?
This is regard to the public medians?
No. It's just the restriction on irrigation. The 2 days a week and, the different days of the week and so forth. It says that limit outdoor irrigation of ornamental landscape or turf with potable water by the persons it serves to no more than 2 days per week. So, the 2 days per week with Monday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday business, that all has to do with ornamental landscape or turf. And we could all sort of imagine, but I don't really know exactly what they mean by that.
So I think we should clarify this, but my understanding is that if it's edible, these rules don't apply. If you're watering something that you can eat, your tomato plant, you can do that at a different, not on this schedule. But I'd like to have Randy confirm that. That's what I've been told.
Get our legal opinion.
Yeah. Yes, let's get that.
That makes sense.
So not recreation. That's not what makes it.
Plants.
That makes more sense.
It's just that if we put something out for the public and we say if you have an ornamental landscape, and then I can imagine a lot of people saying, well, my landscaping isn't ornamental. It's natural native plants. That's not ornamental. So I think it's a little unclear as to what the heck that means. So I think before we start trying to educate people, we should be clear what we're educating them about.
A little further clarification, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to raise is, people always ask when we talk about cutting back on irrigation and water use and so forth, and people say, oh, so what's the city doing? And I know the city is doing a number of things, but it might be useful to reiterate what the city is doing, and also whatever information we put out, that's a part of what the city is doing. So whatever you can tell us now, and then I think when we put out something in writing or on the website and so forth, I think it's important that people understand that the city is doing its share too.
Yeah, good point. We will do that. Some of the stuff that we're doing is we've cut off the watering of ornamental and lawns around City Hall. We've cut off watering of the medians that are Bayshore Boulevard and some other places in town. So we've tried to restrict our water use through those kinds of uses, which we is our kind of our heavy water use areas, our parks and stuff like that. Obviously, we'll try to continue to keep the community park green, although we've cut back on watering there. And we'll do the same thing at the ball fields, although there's a safety issue there, so we have to make sure we maintain safe surfaces. But we are trying to cut back our outdoor watering use as much as possible.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if staff could answer the question of how soon will these stage 2 restrictions go into effect?
I believe June 1st. Yeah, I think it's June 1st.
June 1st. Okay. And it says that the HOAs have been, staff has been in contact with the managers, I assume, of HOAs, so they'll be made aware of the, 2-day-a-week watering restrictions. Okay.
All the staff, which is Jerry Flanagan, we've all met Jerry, they are in contact with all the commercial operators, including the HOAs, which we kind of consider to be commercial accounts. So they're talking to all the either property owners or property managers or whomever is the responsible party.
And would those restrictions apply not only to the HOA common areas, but also to the front and side lawns that are under HOA management?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
No exemptions.
So that brings us to oral communications number 2. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak? Seeing no requests, I would like to adjourn in close in memory of Marie Allen and Mary Howell.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.